All right, we're going to go to the next panel. Paul, please, we're going to have one of the very exciting things. Actually, I wanted to usually like to give the, to get to the next panel. So give the, please, and Brian. But myself, I'm actually, I'm a blockchain advisor at Stanford University. I've been around the blockchain for a long time, and crypto world, and also crowdfunding since 2012. We were very excited about the Jobs Act and the Title III of the Jobs Act, but never capitalized about $1 million. So when SDOs, we've never been involved in IPOs, I mean ICOs, and STOs is, we think this is going to be a great thing. Tokenizing a lot of those stuff, it makes sense. One of them that we look around and find out how they've taken is one of the real estate. The other one is film industry, film, music. So we got a couple of experts here, and I'm going to have them introduce yourself. But yeah, go ahead, please.
I'm Aaron. I'm with Swarm and Swarm Capital. And we are less actually expert in specifically the film and entertainment industry, but we provide an open infrastructure for compliant tokenization of assets and for running STOs and all of that, which I'll go more deeply into later.
I'm Brian Herskowitz. I am the CCO of Crypto Film Fund. I'm a filmmaker primarily, been a writer-producer, taught screenwriting for Boston University for the last 15 years. That's me.
I'm Paul Sweeting, and I run a research consulting business called Concurrent Media Strategies, which is focused on the intersection of media, technology, and public policy. And I'm also the co-founder of the Rights Tech Project, which is an organization that puts on conferences kind of like this that focuses on technology innovation around the management of media rights and intellectual property rights, and that overlaps quite often with the crypto blockchain world, because there are a lot of people in the media industries who see intellectual property rights management as sort of a killer app for blockchain, and there's been a lot of interest recently in using cryptocurrencies as a means of financing production of various types of media. So.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. So let me start something out of but I have to make a disclosure. I am actually, and with a couple other friends, we're investors and at the Crypto Film Fund, which I believe in very much. I've got an office in LA, and so I'm very familiar with it. And the CEO, the last minute she got she lives in Kansas City, Ann Shopland, very nice lady, and actually the Crypto Film Fund, and she got the flu, so she couldn't be with us, and she apologized. Send her the best to all of us here. So we wish her for good recovery, and then, but I want to make this disclosure because. Like I said, I myself, we're looking at a lot of different avenues, and you can see some of the brochures. We're involved in the real estate, and we think some real estate work. But the film industry, and I want to start with Brian. Brian was involved in the raising money on the couple of the platform, on the Reg 5, Reg D, and some other one. Tell me, and you're a producer. Tell me, you're also writers and producers in the film industry, in horror film. Tell us about your experience. How would that be basically in raising money on the platform for the crowdfunding or this?
The thing about the film industry is it definitely lives by the golden rule, and that those who have the gold make the rules. And if you want to make films, you have to be able to find and access money. And the biggest problem for an independent film producer is, where is the money? How do you access it? And the other side of it is, how do you protect your investors? How do you mitigate the risk? And how do you make sure that they get as much money back on a project as possible? And it's a high-risk industry, and it's an industry that a lot of people are very reticent to get into. The company that I was with previously was called Horror Equity Fund. We were a crowdfunding-based company. We did a Regulation CF raise. One of the things that we found is that you have to have an incredible marketing machinery behind you, particularly if you're going to try and raise money through the crowd. If you're going through the studio system, the studios have their ways of financing projects. You don't have a problem. But the odds of your being from the middle flyover states and being able to get a film made are relatively small. So how does that person who's coming from, Miami, from Kansas City, from St. Louis, how do they get access to funding? And that was one of the problems we were trying to find there, and one of the problems that I think Crypto Film Fund is actually addressing very successfully, the idea of democratizing the ability for someone in anywhere to bring a project to the marketplace and get it funded, made, and protect the investor. Because one of the things that's absolutely crucial, in my opinion, is that you have an investor who feels that they are being treated well, otherwise they don't return to the industry. And there are plenty of people that have invested in film, were burned, and never came back to that industry.
Thanks, Brian. And Paul, you have to add up, is that?
Yeah, just to pick up on what Brian was saying, we're in a sort of weird pivot moment in the film industry. You have this enormous expansion of shelf space, metaphorically speaking, driven by the growth of streaming services, and so there's a growing need for content to fill that pipeline, to fill those shelves, sort of like in the old days of home video, where you had an expansion of blockbuster stores, and you had this enormous growth in shelf space, and a need to fill it with content. And there was a big explosion in production, particularly independent production. But as Brian was saying, it's very, there's a roadblock in the middle, and that is financing for that production, and being able to raise that capital. And Crypto Film Fund, seems to me, I'm not involved in it, but it seems like an interesting approach, because it's an attempt to bridge that gap between the genuine need for demand for content to fill the pipeline, but the concomitant need to finance the production of that. Yeah. So there's a real problem that in the marketplace that Crypto Film Fund is aimed at solving.
Paul, we talk about not only the funding, but also the digital rights. I mean, there's a big problem in the industry, and I think blockchain will be a way, or a smart contract, to solve that. Tell us about that a little bit.
It's the most interest in blockchain as an IP rights management, digital rights management solution has been in the music industry, because it's even more screwed up than the film industry is. With respect to managing rights, it's orders of magnitude more complicated in the music industry, and they have a history of very poor data management and record keeping and so forth. So it's a real mess. But so a lot of people are looking at blockchain as a means of reforming how artist rights, both songwriter rights and recording artist rights, are managed in a transparent way via blockchain, and there's been a number of industry initiatives around that. It's now starting to happen in the film, on the film and TV side, in part because of the explosion in streaming that I referred to before. Means that content, filmed content, whether it's episodic or feature length, is being exploited in so many different windows today. I mean, it used to be a fairly discrete series of windows. A movie came out in theaters, if it was a major studio release at any rate. Independent films often got small theatrical releases. It then went to the home video market. It then went to the pay TV market. It then went to the free broadcast market. That was the basic sequence. And each of those was fairly well understood, and industry norms had evolved. But today, content can get sliced and diced and chopped up and put on TikTok and put on YouTube and streaming services all over the world. And so the need to manage those who actually needs to get paid for each one of those exploitations has gotten far more complicated, and a lot of people are starting in that world are starting to look at blockchain as a means of bringing some at least transparency and speed to that market.
And yeah, and also, make sure that you get your money.
Yes, and liquidity is a major issue. Part of the problems with one of the reasons people are reluctant to invest in film is it can take a very long time to get your money out, and if there is any money to come out, and with cryptocurrency and blockchain, there's the as Dara was explaining before. I mean, there is an opportunity to introduce liquidity into a market that has been highly illiquid historically, and that has the potential to attract money that otherwise would not find its way into that business.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. That's that we believe in that. Now, one of the issues has been the platform, how transparent it will be a platform of any of these investors basically go there and see the dashboard. And so the Swarm Fund actually, Aaron's here to discuss about that. They have a platform, and I'll let him go over there. They raised money on that in the last couple of years. How many? $5 million, $6 million on the platform?
For the platform itself.
Yeah. I'll let him talk about it. So if you, that's the platform that Crypto Film Fund use for that. And I'm going to have Aaron explain how the platform work, how the dash work. And by the way, and that he's going to tell us that's a white label platform. So if you have any other ideas, you can guys go to those guys and they will do a great job. So that is a Swarm. They have a white label. Aaron, please elaborate on that. And please put the microphone a little bit
closer. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So yes, Swarm is, as I said earlier, it's this infrastructure for issuing the digital assets, and it is built on a very modular framework, and it's built to be something that helps lower friction, reduce barriers, and create more inclusive investment opportunities. So supporting what these guys are setting out to do is part of the mission, and kind of as a compliment to what Dara was saying, we feel like tokenization of assets is there's a deluge coming of opportunity, and Swarm's trying to build this very flexible and yet incredibly friendly framework for people to be able to engage in these opportunities in a compliant way. So one great thing about Swarm is it is decentralized. We have about 400 masternodes that are running the network, and that is a way to be involved with Swarm and to help grow what we can achieve. But at its core, there are 3 live applications. The primary one is the Swarm application, which allows people to tokenize an asset, as they would define it, and distribute that asset to people. That actually can be done for free. It can be done with a stake of Swarm tokens, actually, if you want to self-serve on that sort of thing. But we also, through Swarm Capital, offer a service layer to create custom opportunities for people to white label the full experience and to engage the audience that you're trying to seek from a technology perspective. We have a component called the Investor Pass, and the Investor Pass is a reusable passport to access different investments. So I know we're all tired of going through KYC, AML, and all of that again and again and again. Investor Pass allows you to map that to a blockchain-based identity that's secure and private, and you only release your information to the people that you need to do that in order to be compliant with whichever regulatory body you're following under. And that allows you to basically have certificates assigned to your pass that says that you've done a certain level of KYC, AML accreditation, et cetera. And then what we have now for sort of prospecting is something called the Early Bird application, and that is free. That is something that anybody can spin up and run and try to kind of get early interest in their opportunity, and allows you to qualify investors by getting them to register with you. You can ask them questions, and then you can have an entire dashboard to gain insights and communicate with them on how they might want to invest in your opportunity. And as I said, the what we call our Blackbird suite is the white label solution that allows you to customize that infrastructure and package up what is needed. So if you need, we have a custody partner, but if you need to bring your own, you can. We have KYC AML providers, but if you need to bring your own, you can. We've built things to be very modular, so much so that we're blockchain agnostic. So if you would, we're built to issue on Ethereum right now, but if you would rather issue on Tezos or another chain, then that's something that we can talk about and support.
And you can actually use your broker-dealer actually and go to the 506C or D, any of those regulations already
partner with-
implant. Now, you don't need to tokenize
So
it
what we
for
really
sure.
want to do is meet people where they are, to try to help adopt and grow this space. So if you have these other partners that you're working with, we're providing this technical infrastructure and we're making it really agile and available for people to put together the right offering.
Yeah, it saves you a lot of money getting
Yeah,
programmers.
it
These
is.
guys are beating, and this proven platform actually. You guys raised $5-6 million, and one of the companies using your platform is Siemens.
Yeah, so we
Who was your-
partnered with Siemens to look at closing the gap on providing energy. We have a project going on in Senegal that's a solar-powered energy, and right now we're providing a donation platform for that. But the idea is to experiment with ways that you could tie fintech concepts to energy, and so Siemens is working with us as a white label partner for that.
Yeah, and you're partnered with a crypto film fund for the platform.
Crypto Film Fund. We have Index.Capital is a fund that's raised money. We did one called the Art Token back last year, which was an art portfolio that was tokenized. And we have a distressed real estate fund called Resolute that's in our, and we're looking at one called Ash Elements, which is trying to tokenize ash waste from power plants, which actually has rare earth elements in it, which is really cool. Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, thank you. Paul, last word. So we go to the next keynote panel. Yeah.
One area that I think something like Crypto Film Fund could be transformative in the business is that one of the reasons it costs so much money to produce a film is that everybody needs to get paid up front, or everybody wants to get paid up front because they have no faith that they're ever going to see any downstream revenue. And if you had some transparency introduced by managing payments via blockchain, you might be able, over time, to reduce the upfront cost of producing a movie because people would be more willing to defer payment if they had some confidence that they would actually see some piece of any downstream revenue.
Right, and that transparency is what.
That's one- I'm sorry.
I was saying that transparency
Yeah.
and that reduction of costs by collapsing the middle bit that kind of takes pieces out of the pie is something that, that's the infrastructure we're trying to create.
Well, Brian can say that one of the biggest issues for the film industry is, where how much money it costs at one time. I think blockchain will help them and report it.
There's, again, the transparency, the ability to mitigate risk, the ability to show how people are getting paid and where the money is going is huge in the film industry. It's an industry that's notorious for being able to kind of, pay Peter to rob Paul or vice versa.
Or rob them both.
Or rob them both. So that's going to be a very important element in blockchain, and the idea that you can really, an investor can see where the money is going, they can have that transparency is going to be very important. In addition, one of the things that as a company we're trying to address is the access to financing for the filmmaker, but also the ability to get a return for the investor. And that is tied into all sorts of different things, including supporting and financing name talent. Getting a star or a director that means something to your production, which in turn turns around and increases your bottom line. Yeah. And the ability to have funds available to support a filmmaker and say, you've got an actor that you want for this film, it's going to cost $3 million for his fee. Here's $3 million, it's in this fund, and it's available for you for this project to get someone to attach. That's something that's very important. And probably the most important thing is going to be distribution.
Yeah.
And the ability to have a film come out, not just sit on a shelf, but actually be seen by people. And that is also really crucial and something that Crypto Film Fund is also going to be very much involved with in terms of making sure that any project that comes through the pipeline with us is vetted and has some sort of end game, some sort of exit strategy that allows the film to get out into the marketplace and make some return on the investment.
On smart contract and just digital right, basically. We recently, with a couple of conferences that Paul was actually, and with you over there, and so the reception in Hollywood has been, and the people in financing Hollywood, has been very. How was it, basically? I mean, I saw. I mean, you're in the industry for a long time. How was it, the reception of these particular products?
There is definitely growing interest in it. There is a consortium called the Entertainment Blockchain Alliance that has recently emerged, started by some folks at
the film market, American film market.
Yes.
I'm actually part of that.
So there's a lot of interest in it. I've been in talks with folks who run the Slam Dance Film Festival about doing in fact, it might be a good opportunity for Crypto Film Fund. So particularly the independent film world is taking a lot of interest in this. The studios, the major studios will be late to the game, as they always are, as all incumbents are.
But they will come to the game.
They will come to the game, but they're going to,
As they did with crowdfunding.
Right.
And, when you see Veronica Mars, which was a film that was crowdfunded, but it was a studio picture. So the studio saw an opportunity to underwrite their costs by going to the marketplace and going to the crowd because they had a property that was known to the public. They, were able to pocket $6 million from the crowd.
Thank you. Aaron, if anybody want to get in touch with the Swarm Network, if they have an idea, want to have a platform, what do they get in touch with you?
The easiest way would be to go to swarm-capital.com, and there's lots of intake forms there for different things you might be willing to do.
Right.
Swarm.fund is also a great website for information on our overall infrastructure.
Good. Well, Brian, if anybody wants to know more about the information, where do they go?
You can find me at brian@cryptofilmfund.io, and welcome all questions or any interest. Let me know.
Thank you. Paul, I know you have some publication also. You wrote some article about the blockchain, which I read that was interesting recently. How did they get to find you?
You can find me at paul@concurrentmedia.com. You can also reach me through the RightsTech website, which is rightstech.com.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Just appreciate it. You can see all of these other people at the other room if they come with it. But